Thermal pollution is defined as a sudden increase or decrease in temperature of a natural water body. When someone thinks of pollution, the idea of thermal pollution often doesn't come to mind. People will first think of things like carbon emission, domestic and industrial waste, and a variety of other changing factors. However, thermal pollution is a real and persistent problem in our modern society. In a layman's term, thermal pollution is when an industry or other human-made organization takes in water from a natural source and either cools it down or heats it up. They then eject that water back into the natural resource, which changes the oxygen levels and can have disastrous effects on local ecosystem and communities. Causes of thermal pollution. When water is used as a cooling agent in industrial plants, production and manufacturing plants are biggest source of thermal pollution. These plants draw water from nearby source to keep machines cool and then release back to the source with higher temperature. When heated water returns to the river or ocean, the water temperature rises sharply. When oxygen levels are altered in the water, this can also degrade the quality and longevity of life that lives underwater. This process can also wipe away streamside vegetation, which constantly depends on constant levels of oxygen and temperature. By altering these natural environments, industries are essentially helping decrease the quality of life for these marine-based life forms and can ultimately destroy habitats if they are not controlled and careful about their practices. Soil erosion is another major factor that causes thermal pollution. Because consistent soil erosion causes water bodies to rise, making them more exposed to sunlight, the higher temperature could prove fatal for aquatic biomes as it may give rise to anaerobic conditions. Deforestation. When trees and plants being cut off, they result in the falling of sunlight directly on lakes, ponds or rivers. When deforestation takes place, these water bodies are directly exposed to sunlight, now thus absorbing more heat and raising in temperature. Deforestation is also a main cause of high concentration of greenhouse gases, that is global warming in the atmosphere. Like runoff from paved surfaces, urban runoff discharge to surface waters from paved surfaces like roads and parking lots can make water warmer. During summer seasons, the pavement gets quite hot, which creates warm runoff that gets into the sewer systems and water bodies. Natural causes like volcanoes and geothermal activity under the oceans and seas can trigger warm lava to raise the temperature of water bodies. Lightning can also introduce massive amount of heat into the ocean. This means that the overall temperature of the water source will rise, having significant impact on the environment. The effects of thermal pollution is not limited. Effects of thermal pollution. Among recognized scientists and scholars, there are generally two schools of thought when it comes to the effects of thermal pollution. Some lean on the side of negatives of this pollution on aquatic ecosystem and how it is detrimental to positive environmental practices. Now, first is decrease in dissolved oxygen level. The warm temperature reduces the levels of dissolved oxygen in water. The warm water holds relatively less oxygen than cold water. The decrease in dissolved oxygen level can create suffocation for plants and animals, which may give rise to anaerobic conditions, and warmer water on the other hand allows algae to flourish on the surface of water, and over the long term growing algae can decrease oxygen levels more in water. Second is the increase in toxins. With the constant flow of high temperature discharge from industries, there is a huge increase in toxins that are being regurgitated into the natural body of water. These toxins may contain chemicals or radiation that may have harsh impact on the local ecology and make them susceptible to various diseases. Loss of biodiversity. A dent in the biological activity in the water may cause significant loss of biodiversity. Changes in the environment may cause certain species or organisms to shift their base to some other place, while there could be significant number of species that may shift in because of warmer waters. Organisms that can adapt easily may have an advantage over organisms that are not used to the warmer temperatures. Ecological impact. A sudden thermal shock can result in mass killings of fish, insects, plants, and amphibians. However, hotter water may prove favorable for some species, while it could be lethal for other species. Smaller water temperature increase the level of activity, while higher temperature decrease the level of activity. Many aquatic species are sensitive to small temperature changes, such as 1 degree Celsius, that can cause significant changes in organism metabolism and other adverse cellular biology effects. Effects on the reproductive system: a significant halt in the reproduction of marine wildlife. Although this may be true, reproduction can still occur between fish, but the likelihood of defects in newborns is significantly higher. Can happen due to increasing temperature, as reproduction can happen within certain range of temperature. Excessive temperature can cause the release of immature eggs or can prevent normal development of certain eggs. Increased metabolic rate. Thermal pollution increases the metabolic rate of organism as increasing enzyme activity occurs that causes organisms to consume more food than what is normally required. If the environment were not changed, it disrupts the stability of food chain and alter the balance of species composition. Migration. The warmer water can also cause particular species or organisms to migrate to suitable environment that would cater to its requirement for survival. This can result in loss for those species that depend on them for the control of thermal pollution is necessary as its detrimental effects on aquatic ecosystem may be detrimental in the future. Viable solutions to chronic thermal discharge into water bodies are as follows. Cooling ponds. Cooling ponds or reservoirs constitute the simplest method of controlling thermal discharges. Heated effluents on the surface of water in cooling ponds maximize dissipation of heat to the atmosphere and minimize the water area and volume. This is the simplest and cheapest method which cools the water to a considerably low temperature. However, the technique alone is less desirable and inefficient in terms of air-water contact. Cooling towers. Using water from water sources for cooling purposes with subsequent return to the water body after passing through the condenser is termed as cooling process. In order to make the cooling process more effective, cooling towers are designed to control the temperature of water. In fact, cooling towers are used to dissipate the recovered waste heat, so as to eliminate the problems of thermal pollution. Third is artificial lakes. Artificial lakes are man-made bodies of water which offer possible alternative to ones through cooling. The heated effluents may be discharged into the lake at one end and the water for cooling purposes may be withdrawn from the other end. The heat is eventually dissipated through evaporation. These lakes have to be rejuvenated continuously. A number of methods have been suggested and developed for converting the thermal effluents from power plants into useful heat resources for maximizing the benefits. That's all on soil pollution.